Road safety and the focus, of course, the countless tragic deaths of many South Africans due to road accidents every year have been more frequent and steadily on the rise every year. Fatalities increase significantly during the festive season always. As an active and immediate measure to tackle this alarming increase of road fatalities with a long-term vision, Stay Alert, Stay Alive hosted several live public events with the intention of making you, South Africans, and our South African roads safer for all South African road users. We are joined now in studio by the road safety criminologist and coordinator of the road safety project for Stay Alert, Stay Alive, Dr. Lawrence Barrit. Doctor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Now, some people would say that, all these road safety campaigns are really not working because we see an increase in the road death toll every year.
I really believe they are working because if not for them, I really believe that the death toll would have been much, much higher.
Only 5% though this year, which is a reduction from the previous year. Previous it was 14% on the rise. So you do see that there's a difference?
No, not really. I think that, first of all, I don't think these figures are really final. And number two, unless I have calculated wrongly, there is a 2-day lesser period this year in terms of when the figures were actually calculated. And compared to last year? Correct, correct. So it's absolutely horrendous what is happening on the roads of South Africa compared to any other country with similar infrastructure than what we in South Africa have got.
Is it your view that our motorists are simply negligent, or is it perhaps that we need to look at their attitude on our roads?
I think it's everything, to be honest with you. As we can see, the number of people arrested for drinking and driving is 5,943, which is a staggering amount. And that leads me to ask one question. It's nice being told continually, year by year, so many people are arrested for drinking and driving. How many are convicted? In other words, how many just go on and think this is a joke? I'll be arrested, I'll get bail, I'll be out, or maybe I'll spend a night in jail, maybe even not. And that's it. The figure that we need to know is how many are convicted. In other words, what happens after they are caught.
And that is why we have that poll question, Eben, that we're raising with our viewers this morning on the screen right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Barrit, it's the age-old question. It's about compliance. And it seems as if in South Africa we're not compliant. We're only compliant when we stand to lose something like our freedom. Now, 15 years for drink driving, if you take a life on the road, that should be the context of this. Right now, 164 of our viewers have voted. 44% say that's too harsh. 24% say it's a good thing. And 32% say, well, it's long overdue. Tough action needs to be taken on our roads. What's your view? 15 years if you take a life on the road?
Right. Looking at those figures over there, we have a question over here of 15 years for drunk driving. It doesn't say on the question for taking a life. So I think if we would rephrase that question to 15 years for drunk driving, for taking the life of a person, I really believe that we wouldn't have 44% too harsh. I don't think it's too harsh if a person takes a life. And also, I would say there should be a similar figure, whether it's 10 years or 9 years or 8 years, if the person who is drunk or under the influence, it doesn't have to be alcohol, it can be under the influence of some strong drug, whatever it might be, obviously recreational, I'm not talking about medication. If the person has been in a collision, drunk, under the influence.
If you cause a collision.
And has caused an injury to somebody else. Definitely there should be another figure which should be asked also of the public.
You have to be responsible and take responsibility for what you do. We cannot put our heads in the sand and destroy lives. Now, people are tweeting us also, Dr. Barrit. Let's just have a look what people are saying. Then I'll hand you back to Alvis. But what are you telling us with regards to 15 years for drunk driving?
Well, it looks...
This one from Tasman says, why remove license when half a country don't have legal licenses? Retest everyone. Well, you heard it there from the RTMC. There's a lot of people's licenses are going to be recalled.
That's the good thing. Unati says people must start to change themselves, then obey the rules of the road. Unati, I saw people, sober people, who just refuse to obey the rules of the road. Out of selfishness, I think. Queenie comes back, Alvis, and says, suspend their driver's licenses, make them give back to society somehow. And maybe that's a point that you guys can pick up Finally, Tefel says, what makes our law enforcement officers to take bribes? Low salaries, politician getting a lot of money, says Tefel. That's another take on it. But what do you think, Elvis? That one where we talk about, make them give something back somehow.
And what is that something? Is perhaps losing your freedom. Because when you're out there, you are provided a license that you can drive. It's not a right, as the RTMC has said earlier. It is something to make you mobile, but yet you abuse that right and you take it for granted. But Dr. Barrit, there's an increase, of course, of people drinking and driving on our roads. Yes. How do we deal with that? And is there a measure that your campaign is using for the Stay Alert, Stay Alive to make people aware of this?
Right. We have done many tests, especially at the Kyalami racetrack, with respect to drinking and driving, testing people first sober, getting them steadily more intoxicated. We've also used the Drunk Buster, which is a set of goggles which simulates drinking and driving. And what we have found that just even slightly above the South African legal rate, which is another question at the moment, that a person is 7 times more likely to have a crash than if he or she was sober. Now that leads to another thing. Most countries at the moment are going from the 5% blood alcohol concentration level down to sorry, not 5%, I mean 0.05, my apology,
yes.
My apology, from 0.05 to 0.03. So basically halving what was before. Now,
and that brings it down to about 2 beers, I would imagine.
No, less. Less. I would say 1 beer, definitely 1 beer. Now, if I can put it to you in complete context, I think that would make an enormous difference on the roads of South Africa. I really believe that South Africa should go this way, but as quickly as possible.
Is that possible to do that in a very short space of time? And is there also not another thing that we should look at as a society? Because it seems like the Department of Transport only focus on the festive season and, of course, come Easter. Shouldn't that be a year-long campaign to make people aware of the dangers of drinking and driving?
Most definitely. We have our particular Stay Alert, Stay Alive campaigns running the whole year. We have something on virtually every month. Now, the drinking and driving, needless to say, we concentrate on more Christmas and Easter time because that is when it becomes more prevalent. But to put it to you quite bluntly, every weekend is drinking and driving time. People get paid either on a Friday or on a Saturday, and unfortunately, please, not everybody, a lot of people, it's just drinking time.
Unroadworthy vehicles, we've seen speed cameras, we've seen roadblocks, but still, this is not helping. The figures keep on rising. Your thoughts?
Right. If we look at the actual figures, we will see that there were 6,800 vehicles taken off the road or suspended because they were unroadworthy. And a further 2,500 were impounded because they were so bad that the traffic officers wouldn't even let them continue, never mind continue to a safe place and then stop using them. So we can see that this is a huge problem. But you must remember that it's the driver that drives the vehicle that should know that his vehicle is either not roadworthy or in a condition that he should have something done to it before he can continue or before he starts a journey. So again, we might say it's the vehicle, but no. The driver's fault or the owner of the vehicle or both are responsible for that.
In 30 seconds, Dr. Barrit, your advice to motorists out there.
Right. When you go out and drive, make sure of 3 things. Number 1, that when you're in the vehicle, your seatbelt is on. Number 2, that you are in a condition to drive. In other words, that you either are well rested and you're not under the influence of any substance, whatever it might be. And thirdly, obey all the rules of the road.
Dr. Barrit, I thank you so much for coming through and joining us here in studio.
Thank you for having me.
That was road safety criminologist and coordinator of the Road Safety Project for Stay Alert, Stay Alive, Dr. Lawrence Barrit.